Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be diving into the events that led up to World War II,
Yeah.
specifically the political decisions
Right.
and, frankly, some of the unbelievable maneuvers that set the stage
Yeah.
for this global conflict.
Unbelievable is right.
And we'll be using an episode of The Rest is History as our guide. It's this podcast hosted by historians
Okay.
Tom Holland and Dominic Sandbrook.
I think you'll find this one particularly interesting.
Yeah.
We're really talking about a period where the world was holding its breath.
Oh, absolutely.
Tensions are rising, and the decisions made had repercussions that echoed for
For decades.
decades.
Yeah.
It's like trying to understand a puzzle where each piece seems stranger than the last.
Right.
For instance, did you know that a pact celebrated with caviar and vodka actually helped pave the way to war?
You can't make this stuff up.
And the personal insults exchanged between world leaders, you wouldn't believe the role those played. It's true, those seemingly small details often reveal larger truths about the personalities and motivations driving these historical events.
Yeah.
And in this case, those personalities were, well, let's just say they were larger than life.
Okay, let's start with Hitler.
Right.
We all know about his ambitions, but the podcast really dives into his mindset,
Mhm.
especially in the year leading up to the war.
Yeah.
Imagine it's 1939, and Hitler's just celebrated his 50th birthday.
Okay.
He's got a military parade,
Yeah.
a model of this gigantic triumphal arch, and
Wow.
this feeling that time is ticking.
What's crucial here is how that sense of urgency influenced his decisions.
Right.
Hitler believed he had a limited window to achieve his vision of a racially dominant Germany with expanded
Living space.
living space. And alarmingly, he saw war as the path to achieve it, even though many of his advisors were urging caution.
So he's got this internal pressure, right? But on top of that, his view of Britain starts to shift.
Yeah.
He initially saw them as a potential ally, someone who might understand or even support his ambitions.
Interesting.
But then it flips, and Britain becomes the enemy.
It does. How come?
Why?
Yeah.
Why the shift?
This shift reveals a lot about Hitler's growing belief in his own destiny.
Huh.
He saw himself as almost superhuman above the rules of international diplomacy.
Oh.
He started to view Britain, particularly its leaders, with disdain, ultimately leading to some disastrous miscalculations.
And then comes what has to be one of history's most shocking alliances.
Oh, yeah.
The Nazi-Soviet Pact.
Right.
You got the Nazis and the communists,
Sworn enemies.
sworn enemies, ideologically suddenly deciding to carve up Eastern Europe.
And they toasted this pact with caviar vodka and sparkling wine.
It's almost unbelievable.
You know, right? It's like a scene from a spy movie.
Right.
But what was Stalin thinking?
Yeah. Why would he agree to this?
Well, Stalin had his own reasons.
Okay.
He was still reeling from the Great Purge, which had decimated the Red Army.
Right.
He saw the pact as a way to buy time, rebuild his forces, and exploit the situation. He also believed the West was weak and wouldn't stand up to Hitler.
Wow.
It was a gamble, a dangerous one based on a cold calculation of his own self-interest.
So we've got Hitler feeling this internal pressure,
Yeah.
his view of Britain changing, and then this unexpected alliance with Stalin.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine how the rest of the world reacted to this news?
Oh, I bet.
It must have been complete chaos.
Absolutely. Oh, it was complete chaos. The world was completely blindsided by the announcement.
Yeah.
You had German citizens relieved because they were terrified of a two-front war.
Right.
Then you had communists around the world struggling to reconcile this pact with their ideology.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And of course, British and French leaders were reeling.
It's
The entire geopolitical landscape had shifted overnight.
like everyone's carefully balanced house of cards just got blown over.
Exactly. And amidst all this, Hitler is still convinced that Britain and France will back down.
Really?
He genuinely believes they won't risk a war over Poland.
Why was he so sure?
It goes back to that disdain for their leaders. He called them little worms
Wow.
and truly believed they lacked the backbone to stand up to him.
Yeah.
He even makes this bizarre last-ditch attempt at diplomacy while simultaneously preparing for invasion.
Wait, what? He tries to play nice while getting ready to attack.
Yes. It's a fascinating contradiction.
Huh.
He sends these feelers out to Britain, proposing an alliance,
I like it.
but only if they ignore his ambitions in Poland.
Oh.
It's almost as if he couldn't fathom why they wouldn't take the deal.
Yeah.
He gets what he wants.
Right.
And Britain, Well, they get his word that he'll leave them alone.
That's some serious wishful thinking on his part.
Yeah.
Seems like he completely misjudged the situation.
He did. Hitler, blinded by his own ambition and belief in his own invincibility, completely underestimated Britain and France's commitment to Poland's independence.
So how does he go from these half-hearted attempts at diplomacy to a full-blown invasion?
Well, things escalate pretty quickly. There are these reports of Polish attacks on ethnic Germans, which were later revealed to be fabricated or wildly exaggerated.
Classic propaganda, right?
Yeah.
Create a sense of outrage and victimhood to justify your actions.
Precisely. The Nazis used similar tactics in Czechoslovakia.
Right.
And they were hoping to repeat that success in Poland.
Yeah.
But the most blatant example is the staged attack on the Gliwice radio station.
Really?
SS men dressed up as Polish soldiers stormed the building.
A false flag operation to give Hitler the excuse he needed for war.
Exactly. It's a stark reminder that truth is often the first casualty on the path to conflict.
Wow.
By manipulating the narrative, regimes can manufacture justification for their actions.
And all this time, Hitler's becoming increasingly erratic. It's as if the stress exhaustion and probably a cocktail of pharmaceuticals are taking their toll.
Oh, yeah.
He's totally fixated on the idea of war, believing it's his destiny to reshape Europe.
The final days before the invasion were a chaotic mix of diplomacy, mixed messages, and fluctuating orders from Hitler himself. The Polish government was caught in the middle, unsure of what to believe or how to respond.
And then there's Mussolini. Hitler's supposed ally throws a wrench in the works at the last minute by declaring that Italy isn't ready for war.
Can you imagine Hitler's fury? He felt betrayed by the very people he thought he could count on. It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Considering Hitler's history of breaking treaties and betraying trust, he seemed incapable of understanding that others might operate from a different moral compass.
So the stage is set, the players are in position, and the world is holding its breath.
Absolutely.
What happens next?
Yeah.
It's almost unimaginable, the entire world waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
As Germany's mobilizing, the big question is, what will Britain and France do?
Right.
Will they actually step up and support Poland?
Yeah.
Or will they try appeasement again like they did with Czechoslovakia?
Well, that's the pivotal moment. They had chosen appeasement at Munich to try and avoid war.
Right.
But this time it's different.
Yeah.
This time, the stakes are incredibly high.
Huh.
The whole world is watching to see if democracy will stand against tyranny.
And Hitler's over there convinced they'll back down.
Oh, yeah.
He just can't fathom them actually going to war over Poland.
He was so sure of it. Remember that disdain for the British and French leaders?
Yeah.
He underestimated their resolve and thought they were bluffing.
But over in London and Paris, there's this growing feeling that appeasement has failed.
Right.
That Hitler only responds to force.
Any force.
What's the atmosphere like over there?
It's somber, definitely.
Yeah.
But there's also a sense of determination to finally confront Hitler.
Okay.
On September 2nd, both Britain and France order full mobilization.
Wow.
They start evacuating kids from cities, preparing for air raids.
It's getting real.
Chamberlain even brings Winston Churchill into the war cabinet. It's clear they're gearing up for war.
But wasn't there still like a tiny bit of hope that war could be avoided? I remember reading about a last-minute speech from Chamberlain.
You're right. He did give a speech.
Yeah?
Suggesting that maybe if Germany pulled out of Poland, they could negotiate.
Yeah.
But it didn't go over well, did it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
People saw it as weak and indecisive.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure on him to take a stronger stance.
Exactly. The feeling was that Hitler needed a clear ultimatum.
Okay.
No more negotiating.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what happened.
So what happened?
On September 3rd,
Okay.
Britain delivers an ultimatum.
The ultimatum.
Withdraw from Poland by 11:00 a.m. or it's war.
That must have been a tense few hours.
Oh, yeah, the whole world was watching the clock. But the
Mhm.
deadline passed in silence.
Oh, wow.
No response from Berlin.
So what happened at 11 a.m. Al?
Shortly after, Neville Chamberlain announced to the British people that they were at war with Germany.
Wow.
It was a somber moment, the start of World War II.
A war that would change the world forever.
Yeah.
The podcast mentions a chilling reaction from Hitler at the moment war was declared.
Yes, as the world plunged into this conflict, Hitler, sitting in silence, simply asked, "What now?"
Wow. It's a question that I think hangs over this whole story.
I agree.
What now? It really highlights the weight of these decisions,
Yeah.
the consequences of unchecked ambition, and the fragility of peace.
The fragility of peace.
What are your takeaways from all of this?
For me, it's a reminder that even small decisions, individual personalities can have huge ripple effects throughout history. We need to be aware of how our actions can shape the world around us. It's a call to understand the past, learn from it, and strive to make better choices in our own time.
Absolutely. If this deep dive into the lead-up to World War II got you thinking, be sure to subscribe for more insightful explorations of history. We'll keep bringing you these fascinating stories and unpacking the events that have shaped our world. Thanks for listening.